Right then. The dust has settled. The hangover is ebbing away. And it's time to look at what went wrong for Manchester United in the Europa League Final against Villarreal last night. In number one, no plan B. Too often this season we seem to attack and operate one way, and if that threat becomes neutralised and we don't manage to create with those first choice attackers, we generally don't have the game changers on the bench for something a little bit different. Now, I know a lot of people are going to throw that at Ollie yesterday. If you go back and actually analyse this and think about this logically and rationally, we all looked at that team and went, well, that's a good team. There's nothing on the bench, though, if we need it. And then people was moaning that because the team that should have been able to do it didn't do it, why didn't he bring someone off the bench? Now, I could tend to agree. Maybe James, maybe Ahmad could have come on and done something. Maybe Van der Beek. But when you think about the qualities that, especially Van der Beek has got, I don't necessarily see how he impacts that game. I think too many of our match winners, because that's what I was looking at that team yesterday, and I was very confident going into the game because I thought we had our match winners out there. Pogba, match winner. Cavani, match winner, although I think him and Scott McTominay arguably the best two players on the pitch. Bruno Fernandes, match winner. Mason, young, maybe doesn't need that sort of pressure on him, but he is a match winner. Marcus, match winner. Awful performance. The problem was too many of those big names didn't turn up. You can win a game with 7 or 8 players turning up and doing well. But you can't win it with 3 and 4 or 2 like United had. Now, we didn't have anything different we could bring on. We didn't have that sort of capability. We did have 250 more passes than them. We had 61% possession, but only 1 more shot on target. And I don't actually think they created anything of note in the second half. And it did seem like they was generally fairly happy to carry on and play for extra time and penalties. And we just could not break them down in the slightest. And we're very, very good in the space. But we've got a lot of work to do when it comes to dealing with teams that aren't necessarily interested in coming and attacking us as well. And we have improved on that because we was dreadful at it previously, but we're still not good at it. We can do it sometimes, we can't do it all the times. And that maybe is something to do with it being a bit of a work in progress of a team. The lack of plan B can also be down to lack of sensible spending in the squad. I don't necessarily think that Maguire makes a huge difference, maybe a bit of a difference at the original set piece. It's a good set piece. You'd hope we could deal with it better. Could the goalkeeper have done better? Could Lindelof have done better? Could Shaw have done better? We had them massively outnumbered. It shouldn't have been. Do you know what? I think some people get fixated on with set pieces is the runners. But you know the most important thing in a set piece is the ball. Just deal with the ball. You don't have to deal with runners if you deal with the ball. And this is something I've learned in this last year. We had Rennie down in January for a podcast, and after we finished the podcast, I asked him, because I started Stretford Paddock FC to learn. I wanted to find out more about the game. I don't think I know everything about football, and clearly. And one of the treats of doing what I do with Rio is I get to peck his head, and every week something else kind of goes into the cookie jar of knowledge, and these little tidbits of information, for me, they're stacking up, and I'm really enjoying the process of this learning. I asked Rio about it after I'd asked Rennie about it. And Rio gave me a couple more things on it, and it's still not perfect, and there's still things I would like to do to take that to another level. But Rennie gave us some info on how United would deal with corners, because I said, we're getting killed at corners. I'm a small team, but I'm getting killed at corners, and he's shown us what United used to do. So I said, right, I'm going to try it. Now, since we restarted, we had 1 league game and then 6 or 7 cup games. And in those games, we didn't concede a single set-piece goal. Not one. We kept several clean sheets, which we hadn't done because that was the major way we was conceding goals. And what it was making a bit of an L of 3 players from the post along the 6-yard box, a little L of 3 players, your 3 taller players, as a block towards whichever direction the ball is coming from. And then you have your best header looking like he's on the back post on the line, and he comes flying out, and his only job is to get his head on that ball, no matter where it goes. And it's bloody effective, and it works for us. United use Vidic. I use a lad called Howson, and it's sensationally effective. One, I love learning those sorts of things, but 2, seemingly the Manchester United first team doesn't or isn't. Or football has advanced that much in the last 12, 13 years from when Rene and Rio was there, that stuff is probably too basic now and doesn't work, or they're not working on it. I don't know the answer on that. But it feels like, I know we've been busy, but I've not really had a lot of training time with a full team either. A lot of what we've done is talking to the players and video and showing them tactics, balls and counters, and it's still been effective. I say it's not perfect, but it's effective. It just feels like United don't have anything like that in us. I've kind of bled this over into number 2, so I'll actually give it the formal title, number 2, in pieces at set pieces. So obviously we conceded again from a set piece. I was kind of just going off on one about the set pieces there. It was their only shot on target. No Maguire, seemingly no leadership, frail in the box, and a set piece hiccup. We have the highest percentage of goals conceded from set pieces, excluding penalties, in the league this season. This is highlighting the fact that I was saying seemingly something that United has to give here. 2 ex-Manchester United greats there in Rennie Mullenstein was a great coach, Rio Ferdinand, great player. Both of them helping a level 14 Saturday League team deal with set pieces, because we was getting crucified at it. Not had a one since. It's night and day. Manchester United seemingly can't do this. It's clearly not fucking good enough, is it? Clearly not good enough. That is on the coaches. A lot of things get put onto the coaches that I don't think is fair. That is on the coaches. Number 3, low block kryptonite. United again, undone by a low block. Tight defensive shape that sets up to frustrate. And it is the right of a weaker team to play how they want to play like that. But United lack creativity. We were very reactive instead of proactive. It seems like our forwards aren't, 1, not necessarily accustomed to working in tight areas, and 2, the shape that we were creating wasn't efficient in creating chances. It wasn't cohesive in creating chances. We're a very individualistic team. There's been some wonderful goals scored by United this season. Those third-man runs that were only invented 6 weeks ago by Bielsa, according to the papers, we have done several of those all season, and it's sensational. One guy picks it up, plays it into someone else, while the third man is making a run before it even reaches the second guy, and he plays him in, because you can't really pick that up. It's very, very difficult to be picking up third runners. Not knowing, is he going to go this way and give it him, or is he turn and go himself, or is he going to shoot? Like the permutations of what can happen are phenomenal. Third man runs are deadly. I didn't see any of that from Manchester United yesterday. There was, to his credit, Luke Shaw was one of the few people that was giving a ball and then just making a run to see what happens. There was so little of that in United's team yesterday. Maybe that's a little bit of immaturity from Greenwood. Cavani is usually sensational at it. Wasn't really doing a lot of it. Marcus wasn't doing it for whatever reason. Bruno, very static. Pogba, arguably a little bit too deep with where he was. There was no reason why you couldn't have pushed Pogba all the way up, right up into the edge of the box, so he can try and create stuff. Pogba's sensational when he's got that almost late surge into the box. These two are not amazing headers of the ball that they had at centre half, but we didn't put in enough of those good crosses. No, and you don't even need to be, Duncan Ferguson to to be winning headers in the box. We saw Alanga win one because the cross was good at weekend. We have to be better at dealing with a low block, and one of the things that the Scousers have done well with is a bit of spam, but it can be generally effective in terms of when they've got a low block and they just go, cool, we're going to come out of the low block a little bit because it's congested and it's tight, and we're going to go aerial with the balls. Being a good team, go back to some of the greater United teams. 2018 was actually a way more of a counter-attack inside the way it opened you up, but you've got a 99 team. And I know football's changed, but the point I'm making is still that they had multiple angles of attack. They could play through balls into the channels, and they did, and they were very effective in doing so. We could cross it from the right-hand side. We can cross it from the left-hand side. We can dribble from either wing and come inside. We had great link-up play between the two main strikers, York and Cole, but also with Sheringham and Solskjaer, they offered something entirely different. We had elite finishing with inside the box. You had elite finishing from outside the box with Paul Scholes. And also Roy Keane chipping with like 7, 8, 9 goals a season as well sometimes. So you had options of scoring goals. Obviously from set pieces, you get a free kick outside the box, Beckham sticking it in the bins. So you have to have a varied amount of options to attack. How are we going to break this team down? How are we going to score these goals? And United seemingly don't have enough of those answers. Number 4, the midfield dilemma. Now, Bruno's numbers are sensational. Bruno's essentially playing the same role Eric Cantona did when he was at United, which is like a bit of a shadow striker, sort of plays in between the lines. He doesn't necessarily come back and link the build-up play. He's very much in the final third. Didn't impact the game really at all yesterday. He makes the distances in a game like yesterday when you kind of need a bit more link-up. You want him out of the way a little bit and using, because he's got great vision. You want him on the ball and affecting it. Him being so high up means that the distance was so great for people trying to find him, means that the percentage chance of those coming down are lower. And Wan-Bissaka unsupported really on his side. No one really for him to link up to. It makes Wan-Bissaka look even worse than, you know, the already questionable ability that he's got on the ball. And I think there wasn't a single through ball completed by either team. You know, and I don't care about them, but I think that just shows you the sort of game that we were in yesterday. You know, we don't have that definitive title-winning, silverware-winning midfield pivot. The combinations that we've got at the moment, some of them can be effective. Clearly, last night's was not. Maybe we should have. Maybe we hoped that Villarreal would come for us. Maybe they analysed us correctly and was like, actually, our best chance of winning this is to sit back and try and bring them onto us. United need to figure out what we're going to be doing in midfield. That's where games are won and lost. And number 5, all nerves, no composure, not enough heart. We didn't have anybody with that ice-cold, ruthless, winning machine nature in them. We looked nervous, we looked frantic, we looked anxious, we froze in the moment. Scott McTominay, I thought, did play like that. He turned up. He came to play like it was a cup final. Credit to him. But Scott McTominay's not got the ability to win a match by that. He can be an effective member of a team doing that. And if you had a few more that were doing that, maybe you can collectively then start to turn a game over. But you needed your match winners to do that, and our match winners didn't do that last night. The lack of composure, the lack of fluidity in our attacking play. We look more hopeful and inventive, and in extra time we only created 0.05 expected goals, which tells you that, you know, we were never really capable of anything in the final third that was going to threaten them. And I know it's very simple and straightforward now for a lot of people to be like, well, all he's got to go, he didn't win the cup. It's all right for people to fail, as long as there's progression, and there has been progression. And ultimately, it will always be judged on lack of winning a trophy, and he should have won a trophy. But that doesn't necessarily automatically mean we didn't win a trophy, you've got to go. People are building things, and everyone is building stuff. And this is a competition. It's not linear. You can't take it from step 1 to step 2 and then hit step 3. because as you're doing that, the board game you're playing on is moving. So it's, you know, so you might go to make step 3 and the step's gone. You're back on step 1. You know, you're playing on a fluid moving board, and that's extremely difficult to continually look for that progress. Now, second was a good finish in the league because we are probably the 3rd or 4th or 5th best squad in the league. If Pep Guardiola had come 4th or 5th with that squad, that's not acceptable. I still don't think they'd have sacked him, but it's still not. It's less egregious than someone like Ollie coming 2nd. Like, did anyone honestly think that United had the best squad in the league and we should have won the title? If you did, you're mental. Now, you can look back and go, well, we had our opportunities, and if we hadn't thrown those points away in stupid games, yeah, valid. But were we ever the best squad? No. Were we better than Villarreal? Yeah. Squad-wise, we are probably better than Villarreal. There's some good players in that team that I wouldn't mind seeing for United. And it's, like I said, it's the right of a smaller team to play however they want to get the job done. And they did park the bus a little bit last night, and they come away with the trophy. Congratulations to them. You're allowed to do that. And I wouldn't have cared if that's what United had done to win it, because winning the trophies is the aim. But you have to give people the time to build. I think this has been an extremely difficult period for Ollie, and I think changing the culture of the football club is harder and longer than any of us imagine. Manchester City had to spend billions with one ethos and one idea to get to the stage that they're at now. United have lurched from different ideologies and transformations. Like, you know, as much as, you know, Sir Alex Ferguson is irreproachable in my opinion, there was things that had probably been allowed to lapse in the team. And if you listen to his autobiography, read his autobiography, he starts talking about the age profile of players, you know, Phil Jones and Chris Smalling, that they left, sort of in response to the criticism that he left an aging squad. But they weren't first team players. He did leave an aging first team. And that first team needed to be replaced. Unfortunately, it needed to be replaced all at once. This, again, goes back to the Glazers. So, whereas... So what happens now is we have this massively overinflated sort of, here's what United have spent post Sir Alex Ferguson. And it's factual, and we have spent those things. That's exactly what's happened. But they're skewed because probably half of that money, if not more, should have been spent prior to Sir Alex Ferguson leaving. The guy left with a positive net spend. Like, he made money on transfers for the last 8 years of his reign. This is a guy that broke transfer record after transfer record up until 2005 when the Glazers took over, and then seemingly changed his whole ethos. What's more likely? That he got told no by the board, or that he suddenly became some sort of person that suddenly didn't want to spend money after doing so for his entire United reign up to that point? Now, you know, Rio should have been probably replaced 2011, 2012, if not earlier. Vidic probably would have been around about 13, 14 anyway. Ever arguably a year or two ahead. But where was look at what we were signing when we signed Rio, when we signed Rooney, when we signed Ronaldo, when we were signing all of these players. You know, we were signing players like, we had 3 and 4 players for positions, not just one, not just 2. And that all disappeared. And because of that mismanagement that you had in those last 5 or 6 years, you know, we might have won a Champions League and got to several Champions League finals in that time, because the team that had already existed and been built prior to that was starting to come to the boil. You know, and this is why we're talking about patience. Like, the team that Ollie's built now isn't ready for the boil yet. Marcus isn't there. Greenwood isn't there. Ahmad isn't there yet. Wan-Bissaka's probably not yet there yet. You've got all of these players that are on the up curve of their career, and they've not necessarily hit their peak together yet, as where they're capable of doing what they're doing as a team. It's a coincidence, really, that United did what we did in 2007, 2008, 2009, 4 years post-Glazer, because the foundations for that had been done and laid prior to them coming in. The likes of Rio, the likes of Rooney, the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, all signed beforehand. And of course, you've got on top of that the likes of Ryan Giggs, Wes Brown, Paul Scholes that had all come through the youth academy at the time that had been added into this. So because of where we'd started from there, we would have been continually building those things if we'd have been allowed. And the overhaul, which has been eye-watering, it's been embarrassing, and it's lurched from one to another. Massive money spent on Lukaku, massive money spent on Paul Pogba, massive money spent on Di Maria. One of those is still here and might be going for free. That's just wasted 250 million sort of range on 3 players. So when people talk about $1 billion spent since Fergie, cool, yeah, well, a quarter of that was on 3 players, and 2 of them aren't even here anymore. And one of them might not be come next summer. I don't necessarily give a fuck what United have spent, realistically. When I look at the number of players afforded, first-team players afforded, it hasn't been anywhere near enough. And for me, that's the most important thing in all of this. There hasn't been enough investment, and there hasn't been enough intelligent investment. And it all goes back to the owners and the mentality of what they want to do. They've never sat down and said, let's become the best at anything. They've gone, what's the way that we can get the maximum revenue for the minimum amount of input? And for me, that's wrong when you're running a football team or a sports team of any sort. But that's seemingly what they're like as owners. Cheers for all your love, support, and everything over the course of the season. We're not stopping over the end of the season. It's going to be transfers and stuff and Euros and all the rest of that sort of shit. We've got some good stuff planned with Rio. Make sure to be checking that out over on his channel on 5. And yeah, I'll see you talking about United, I guess, in a couple of months. But we've got a lot of transfers in the meantime. Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe. See you in a bit.